By the way, thank you so much for sending us $900 every month. It was supposed to be a simple expression of gratitude over the phone. For the past few months, my son and his wife have been transferring money to us for our household. But I was about to tell them that it's time they start spending their money on themselves instead. However, my son's wife, Marie, responded in a way I didn't expect.
Huh? We haven't been sending anything.
To my surprise, Marie seemed utterly confused, as if she was hearing about this for the first time. What? Now it was my turn to be shocked by Marie's hesitant tone.
We only sent money once, when Bob was in the hospital, but nothing since then.
That can't be, but the money has been coming in from your joint account.
That's odd. My husband hasn't mentioned a word about this.
An awkward silence filled the space between us. I had assumed that the money my son sent us was something Marie and he had discussed and agreed upon. They are a married couple, after all, so it only made sense that they would talk things over and decide on an amount to send us for our living expenses. So, what could be going on if neither Maureen or I knew about these transfers? And then, a week later,
No way, this is.
when we discovered the truth behind the money, our faces twisted in fear. My name is Holly. I'm a stay-at-home mom who has finished raising my son and now spends my days quietly. After my son got married and moved out, I started living with my much older husband, Bob, supported by his pension. Though I wanted to contribute to the household finances, the small income I made from my handmade crafts was just a drop in the bucket. Welcome home, Bob.
Oh, thanks. I'm back.
In the evenings, Bob, who works a few days a week at City Hall as part of the senior employment program since his retirement, comes home. When I greeted him while preparing dinner, he was carrying a large package in both hands. It seemed he had brought in the mail.
It's a gift from David. Apparently, he went to England this time.
When I opened the package left on the table, I found a tea set from a famous British heritage store inside. There was also a family photo of my son, David, his wife, Marie, and their middle school-aged daughter, Amanda, which made me smile warmly. David and Marie love to travel, and every long weekend, they visit different places and always send us souvenirs like this. They also visit us frequently, so getting to see the three of them and hearing about their trips was one of my favorite things. England sounds nice. I'd love to visit someday. Since marrying Bob, I've never worked outside the home. Because of that, sometimes I realize how naive I am when I think about how limited my world really is. Unlike David, I've never ventured far from home. While it's not necessarily a bad thing, there's a part of me that feels like I might be missing out. One day, during these peaceful times, I received a sudden phone call from City Hall. I wondered what it could be about, and apparently, Bob fell down the stairs and had to be rushed to the hospital. I rushed to the hospital, where he was admitted. Fortunately, his life wasn't in danger, but he had broken his leg and ended up having to stay in the hospital for a while. When I informed David about it, He made time in his busy schedule to come right away.
It's been a while, Dad and Mom. I heard you were trying to show off to a young lady by lifting something heavy, and that's why you fell, huh?
I'm really embarrassed.
Hearing how Bob fell, I couldn't help but sigh, just like David, who looked exasperated. Bob is getting on in years, and I really wish he'd take better care of himself.
Oh, by the way, just Dad's pension alone won't cover the medical bills, right? I'll gather a substantial amount of money on my end, so you can use it for the treatment.
There's no need for that. We have enough saved up for something like this, so please use that money for yourself, Marie and Amanda. I was taken aback by David's sudden offer and shook my head in refusal. We live modestly, so even with Bob in the hospital, we won't be in financial trouble. Bob agreed, saying that's right, but with a troubled look on his face. However, David was adamant.
Don't worry about it. It's my way of showing my appreciation.
Hearing him talk about filial duty made it hard to refuse. Knowing that our son still cared about us even after starting his own family filled me with more happiness than guilt. Besides, I didn't want to disregard David's thoughtful gesture. Thank you, if you insist. In the end, we gratefully accepted David's offer. After that, the money was deposited into our account. But instead of spending it, I decided to set it aside for Amanda, who would need it in the future. But that's strange, there's more money deposited again. A few months later, when I went to the bank to withdraw some money, I found that David had deposited more funds. And it wasn't just a one-time thing. Over the past few months, a set amount had been deposited every month. Puzzled, I decided to contact David again. Over the phone, David casually said,
Well, rehab and doctor visits cost money, right? It's part of the treatment expenses. Don't hesitate to use it.
Oh no, it's really fine. The money you gave us before has helped a lot. Please use it for your family.
You and Dad are part of my family too. Besides, it's my personal money, so don't worry about it. But, I'd prefer if you didn't mention it to Marie. She might feel awkward about it.
No matter how many times I tried to refuse, David insisted that we keep the money. While I appreciated his kindness, it didn't feel right to accept more money when we didn't need it. I knew David was doing well at a prestigious company, earning a good salary, but I still wished he would save for a rainy day. So, I decided to discuss the matter with Bob again. I brought it up while he was relaxing in the living room, enjoying a cup of coffee after being discharged from the hospital. I appreciate David's thoughtfulness, but I think it's time to stop accepting the money. I made it clear that I didn't want to disregard David's feelings. Bob nodded in agreement.
Yeah, you're right. I'm walking fine now, too.
It had been a few months since his discharge, and although he couldn't run or lift heavy objects, Bob had recovered enough to manage his daily activities without issue. Neither of us had any chronic illnesses, and aside from regular checkups, there was no need for frequent doctor visits. Exactly. My jewelry sales are doing well, too. I think it's time to firmly decline the money.
Yeah, let's do that.
After talking it over, we decided to refuse David's financial help. Bob also told David, "We're okay now," and although David was a bit reluctant, he finally agreed. David's kind words, "Let me know if you ever need anything," warmed my heart. But the very next day, I noticed that another deposit had been made. This time, it wasn't into our usual account, but into the one my husband and I had set up for savings. "Oh, he sent money again." I told him it wasn't necessary. The sender was, of course, David, and I couldn't help but feel exasperated by his persistence. But then, a sense of unease began to grow within me. This savings account is primarily managed by Bob. And the amount David had been sending, $900 a month, was significant, continuing ever since Bob's hospitalization. That's odd. Bob never mentioned anything about this. If David were going to send money, wouldn't it make more sense to transfer it to our checking account for daily expenses? It almost felt like something was being hidden from me in this savings account that I rarely check. Surely not. I quickly dismissed the unsettling thought that crossed my mind. But the fact remained that Bob had never mentioned these deposits to me, despite them going on for so long. The more I thought about it, the more it bothered me. That weekend, I couldn't shake my unease, so I decided to secretly call Marie. I used the excuse of asking about Amanda, who had been so busy with her extracurricular activities that we hadn't seen her much lately.
Amanda is doing great, almost too energetic for us to keep up with. Just the other day, she got so excited that she slipped in a puddle and came home soaked.
That sounds like quite the ordeal, but I'm glad to hear she's doing well. I listened, amused, to the adorable stories Marie shared. Then, I casually brought up something that had been on my mind for a while. "By the way, Marie, thank you so much for sending us $900 every month."
Huh?
To my surprise, Marie sounded genuinely confused.
We haven't been sending anything.
What? Now it was my turn to be shocked. I could hear the hesitation in Marie's voice as she continued.
We only sent money once, when Bob was in the hospital, but nothing since then.
That can't be, but the money has been coming in from your joint account.
David never mentioned anything like that to me.
A heavy silence hung between us. I had assumed that the money David was sending was something he and Marie had discussed and agreed upon. Since they are a married couple, it only makes sense that they would discuss and agree on the amount of money to send us. Sensing something was off, Marie replied in a somewhat stiff tone.
I think I'll ask David about it.
Yes, I'll also ask Bob. Since Bob manages the account, there's no way he wouldn't know about it. I had a bad feeling about this, so I decided to ask my husband directly once he returned. However, when I asked Bob about the money transfers to our account, he just looked puzzled.
Money transfers? What are you talking about?
But money has been deposited into our savings account every month. Maybe David mentioned something to you. I'd like you to share these things with me. Bob said that, but since a portion of his salary was being transferred, he should be aware of it. Even when I pressed him to tell me the truth, Bob insisted.
I don't know anything about these transfers. Besides, we hardly ever use that account.
That's true, but Bob, clearly frustrated, stood up abruptly and walked out of the living room with heavy footsteps. In the end, I couldn't get any useful information, and my questions remained unanswered. A few days later, Marie contacted me, asking if we could meet in person. She didn't specify the reason, but I assumed it was about the mysterious money transfers. So I chose a day when Bob wouldn't be home, and we decided to meet at a nearby cafe. When Marie arrived alone at the cafe, she had a troubled expression on her face. When I told her that I got nothing from Bob after asking him, her expression grew even darker. "And what about on your end, Marie?"
David also said he hasn't been sending anything.
The result, which I had somewhat expected, left me speechless. Suspicion began to build up inside me. Could they really be hiding something from us?
But it seems money is being transferred from the account David often uses.
Yes, I secretly brought the statement with me, and sure enough, $900 has been deposited every month. I took out the savings account statement I had brought from home. Marie also showed me a photo of David's statement, and indeed, there were records of the transfers.
Does this mean that David and Bob are hiding something from us?
I want to believe that's not the case, but it's strange that they won't admit to the money transfers when the transactions are clearly recorded. Even if there's some innocent exchange between them, why wouldn't they tell me or Marie about it? Now that I think about it, Bob often exchanges emails with David on the computer. As we both sat there, puzzled, a thought suddenly struck me. I hate to do this, and I don't want to doubt Bob, but maybe we should take a look.
Yes. I'm curious too. Bob is at work today, right? Mind if I join you?
Of course, I'd actually appreciate it. Marie seemed just as concerned as I was, nodding seriously. So, we quickly headed back home and decided to check Bob's computer before he returned. Since marrying Bob, this was the first time I had done something like this. Even though we are married, we've always respected each other's personal space. As I reached to turn on the computer, my hand trembled. Noticing this, Marie gently rubbed my back to comfort me.
It'll be okay. Maybe they're just secretly saving up for a surprise trip or something like that.
You're right. If that's the case, we'll just pretend we didn't see anything. Marie's warm words eased my tension a bit. It's true. I had let my mind wander into negative thoughts, but maybe they were just planning something nice together. With a renewed mindset, I opened the email inbox. But our small hope was shattered in the next moment. Oh, what's this attachment in the email? The emails between Bob and David seemed ordinary enough, just updates on daily life, nothing suspicious. But then I noticed a phrase at the end, as usual, and saw some files attached. When I opened those files, both of us gasped.
What?
Marie's voice rang out, louder than usual. It was understandable. The files appeared to be surreptitious photos of Marie and Amanda.
Is this? Me? And Amanda too.
Marie's shock left me speechless. The photos seemed to have been taken secretly from inside the house. There were pictures of Marie partially undressed in the bathroom, fresh out of the shower, and Amanda in her school uniform.
No, what's going on?
Wait a minute, could this folder be? I recalled the oddly placed photos folder on the desktop and, with trembling hands, clicked on it. As the photos loaded, I felt a suffocating sense of dread. Displayed before us were numerous covertly taken pictures of Marie and Amanda.
Yikes.
Judging by the number of photos, this didn't just start recently. It seems to go back to when those unusual $900 transfers began.
This can't be. Are David and Bob really?
Marie seemed to lose all strength and collapsed into a chair. I was so shocked that I couldn't think straight. At the same time, I felt a deep sense of betrayal. As I gently patted Marie's trembling back, I spoke with newfound determination. Marie, this is painful, but we can't just let this go. We need to come up with a plan.
Yes. We have to do it, especially for Amanda's sake.
Marie said this, tears welling up in her eyes, but she managed a brave smile. A month later, today is Bob's birthday. When I invited David and Marie over, saying I wanted to throw a birthday party for Bob, they happily agreed to come. We decided to hold the party on the weekend instead of on his actual birthday, so everyone could be there.
Happy birthday, Dad.
Oh, thank you.
Both of them brought gifts, and Bob seemed genuinely pleased.
Too bad Amanda couldn't make it because of her team camp.
Yes, but it's understandable. She's been working hard. David and Marie came, but Amanda was too busy with her activities to join us. However, she had asked them to bring her gift for Bob. Amanda's gift, handed over by David, was a letter and a mug. Once the atmosphere was warm and cheerful, Marie clapped her hands to change the mood.
Actually, Holly and I prepared a very special gift for you. Right?
Yes, something really special. Marie gave me a knowing look. I smiled back and nodded.
Sounds great. I can't wait.
As promised, Marie handed a large basket to Bob, who looked at it with eager anticipation. The contents were hidden beneath a checkered cloth.
Go ahead, please open it.
Oh, what could it be?
With excitement in his voice, Bob pulled back the cloth. The moment he saw what was inside, his face turned pale.
Dad? What's wrong?
David, noticing Bob's sudden silence, curiously peeked into the basket as well. He, too, began to sweat profusely. The basket was filled with the photos exchanged between David and Bob, photos taken without Marie and Amanda's knowledge. So, what exactly is going on here, you two? I asked, standing firm and demanding answers. Bob looked up, startled, his face twisted in anger.
You went through my computer without my permission.
And Marie. We promised each other when we got married that we would never invade each other's privacy.
David shouted, as if accusing Marie of betrayal. I wanted to shout back at them, to tell them how it felt like all the trust we had built over the years had been shattered. How dare you speak like that? Do you even realize what you've done? This is a serious crime.
I can't believe you did this, David. Not just to me, but to Amanda too.
Marie and I both raised our voices in unison. We then handed Bob and David each a single sheet of paper we had placed in the basket. Bob, after what you've done to our daughter and granddaughter, I can't stay with you anymore. I want a divorce.
And the same goes for me. David, I want a divorce too.
What?
For a moment, they looked too stunned to comprehend what they had just heard, but soon their faces turned red with anger, and they began shouting back.
What are you talking about?
That's right, Marie. You can't just say something like this out of the blue.
If I could have avoided saying this, I would have. I believed that Bob and I would stay together until the end, even to the grave. But I couldn't ignore what they had done and continue to stay with them.
This isn't the only evidence we have.
Marie said in a cold voice as she pulled more photos from her bag.
Not just of me and Amanda, but there's more. Look at these.
The photos included not only those of Marie and Amanda, but also pictures of women Bob worked with at the city hall, as well as photos taken at a nearby gym and pool facility. These were the photos we discovered after further searching through Bob's folders. And they were also exchanged between David and Bob via email.
Marie, you.
David shouted, unable to contain himself, glaring at Marie. But Marie glared right back at him, refusing to back down. There was now an irreparable rift between them. It just as there was between Bob and me. You both need to turn yourselves into the police. If you don't, we'll contact them ourselves. Having said what needed to be said, I calmly urged David and Bob to do the right thing.
No. No, Marie, Mom. It wasn't me. It was Dad who.
David, are you betraying me? You were the one who asked me for the photos.
You didn't need to bring that up now.
As their actions were laid bare, Bob and David started a bitter argument, blaming each other. From their conversation, it became clear that this had all started when Bob began taking photos at his workplace. David, who happened to stumble upon them, initially viewed it as a joke, but gradually became fully immersed in it. He then began asking Bob for more photos, offering money in return. What began as an exchange between them escalated, with David secretly taking photos of Marie and Amanda, while Bob continued even while in the hospital, taking pictures of nurses and rehabilitation staff. And ironically, I ended up witnessing that money exchange myself.
Marie, please, give me another chance. I'll never do anything like this again.
David pleaded, almost in a scream, clinging to Marie. But Marie, with a voice as cold as ice, rejected him.
No. Even just once, you betrayed me and our daughter. Why would I want to stay with someone like that?
That's exactly how I feel, Bob. I still found it hard to believe that my husband and son could have done something so horrific. The reason I turned what should have been a celebratory birthday into a day of confrontation was because I realized we couldn't ignore this reality any longer. Afterward, we contacted the police about David and Bob, and we both filed for divorce. Once the police were involved, their actions came to light at their workplaces, and they were both, unsurprisingly, fired. Now, without their partners, and burdened with repayment of damages and public shame, they are reportedly living in misery. But that's no longer our concern.
Holly, it's been a while.
Yes, it has, Marie. It's been a while for Amanda too. Several months have passed since the incident, and I still keep in touch with Marie and Amanda, who returned to her family's home. Although Marie avoided going into the details of the incident, Amanda was understandably shaken after hearing that her father and grandfather had been arrested. But seeing her bright smile as she greeted me with "It's been a while, Grandma," brought me immense relief. For Amanda's sake, I can only hope the memory of her father and grandfather fades quickly.
But I'm surprised, Holly. I can't believe you're really living here all by yourself.
I know, I'm surprised myself. After divorcing Bob, I decided to use the money I had saved up and make a bold move to leave the countryside. I know it's a bit late in life to start exploring the world, but I felt it was time to shed my naivety and get to know the world better. Actually, my handmade shop is opening a stall in a department store nearby. That's part of the reason I moved here.
That's wonderful. I remember you always wanted more people to see your work.
You remembered. Since officially opening my handmade shop after the divorce, it's been doing surprisingly well. All those years of crafting as a hobby were not wasted. My collection has gained a small following, and the experience has paid off. If you like, you can come by, Amanda. The shop's only open for a few hours each day, but I'll give you a little something extra.
Really? I love the accessories you make, Grandma. I'm going to brag to all my friends.
Seeing Amanda's excitement made me smile. Even though I no longer have the person I spent so many years with, I still have time left. I know many challenges lie ahead as I continue to explore the world, but I'm filled with hope and anticipation for what's to come.